Blender is known for its open source application and the capability close to Maya, an industrial app that costs around $200. It's very good for a variety of things when it comes from animation to video editing, all the way to visual effects and physics simulations. Written in OpenGL and Vulkan, but the real reason why it's very popular is because it's free. However, it does have a very steep learning curve, so therefore I'll mostly talk about 3D modeling and not things like animation, shading, geometry nodes which I don't understand, and scripting. First, you probably want the most peak setup for your computer to run Blender, or else you're just gonna, number 1, blow up your PC, number 2, set fire to your house, number 3, cause unnecessary depression to me. Okay, that was your warning. Let's start off with, you probably have never touched the right side of your keyboard except for the arrow keys for your excessive gaming, but now with Blender, you'll use every part of the keyboard. This might actually be crazy, but the numpad or number pad is actually very useful in Blender. Second rule. You really need to use the mouse to use Blender. It's just really good for moving around and not making your fingers hurt. If there was a finger version of carpal tunnel, that would be it after using Blender with the touchpad for an hour. Okay, follow these rules. Second, you would want to actually download Blender. Go to
www.blender.org
or in your Linux terminal, sudo apt install Blender. When you have Blender up and running, you probably need to know how to move. Okay, there are 3 main movements in Blender, as in moving yourself around. There is rotating around the screen, panning yourself around, and zooming in. First, I'll teach you how to rotate around. In order to rotate around, you just need to click the middle button of your mouse. If you want to know how to do it on a touchpad, please ask me. To pan your screen around, press the middle mouse button and the shift key. To zoom in, just scroll in with your mouse, or press the middle mouse button and the control key. To get done the basics of Blender, you should have some base knowledge about the third dimension. Disclaimer, this is not Minecraft. Up and down is the z-axis, not the y-axis. When you first start out in Blender, you can see 2 symbols. Those are the camera and the light. You don't really need these in 3D printing, so you can just delete them. In order to delete an object in Blender, you need to press X or press the delete key, not the backspace key, the delete key. Now, you should probably know how to add an object into your Blender file. It's actually really easy. On the top left corner of your screen, you'll see a button that says Add. And click on that, and look at all these options. The only one we'll be focusing on is the mesh category. You can really just click on any of the options in the category and experiment with it. By the way, a shortcut to add an object is Shift plus A. You select objects by clicking on it, or on the list at the top right of the screen. But how do you move it around? Simple. By the left side of the screen, there's a bunch of panes with some symbols on it. Hover over them and they'll tell you what they do. There are only really 5 panes we need to discuss about, so I'll only talk about those. First up, this pane. This one translates the selected object on the X, Y, or Z axis. Second, this one. This one rotates the selected object on the X, Y, or Z axis. The third pane. Could you guess what it does? It scales the current object. So currently we have translating, rotating, and scaling. We really aren't missing any other type of transformation, but there's still 2 more panes. The fourth pane adds up all of our previous movements together into one, which is called the transformation pane. The fifth pane, which is really the first pane, does absolutely nothing but select objects. However, it's useful for doing keybinds and stuff. Speaking of keybinds, there are 3 for transforming the object. G is to move it around, R is to rotate it, and S is to scale it. Anyways, you are now able to make basic models that you would probably be able to do in Tinkercad. But what if you wanted to make something more complex? More complex than Tinkercad, like a realistic staircase. You could probably make a simple one with your current abilities, but what if you wanted to make a realistic looking one? Then, you would need to learn how to actually 3D model. This whole time we have been learning how to add and transform meshes, but now it's time to learn how to modify them. So, on top of the window you'll see a bunch of things called workspaces. The one we should be on right now is the layout workspace. Anyways, we currently are focusing on the modeling workspace. First, add a cube and then press the modeling workspace button. Then, you usually see a bunch of points on the cube, and if you click on any, you are able to move them. At the top left, you will see 3 panels that will show 3 modeling options. Edit by vertex, edges, or by faces. If you didn't know, you can press shift and select another object to select multiple. Now, let's talk about these panels. The first one is called extrude. It lifts your vertices slash edges slash faces to a position you choose. The second one is called inset faces. It makes a smaller face from a bigger face. It's good for making objects with holes in them, or you could combine this with an extrusion. The third one is called bevel. It basically cuts your edge. It's great for making sharp edges smoother. The fourth one is called loop cut. It cuts the loop into a valid face. Sometimes if your geometry is too messy, it breaks. That's really all, but you still don't know how to use the bottom right of the screen. The only one you really need to know how to use is the modifiers page, which is the one with the blue wrench. Add one and see what happens to it. For example, use something called subdivision surface. It splits your edges and smooths it, making it more detailed. Also, there's a sculpting workspace in Blender, but I'm not paid enough for that. Now that you have learned all of this, you can create stuff like a bowl, a chair, a pencil. It's endless possibilities. Okay, that's it. I don't think I explained this very well, but as I said before, I'm not paid enough for that.